Thank you for joining in today. And I would love to know what your business is. I would also love to know that what your thoughts are, your feelings are when you hear the words money, money in business, finances, budgeting, business plan, forecast, projected forecast, P&L, um, loan to debt. What feelings do you have when you hear those words? I would love to know. So think about that. When you hear the words budgeting, numbers in business, P&L, finance, loan to debt, projection, forecasting, what do you feel? What is your first feeling? I have the opportunity and have had the opportunity to work with a lot of business owners, and a lot of business owners do not like to talk about budgeting, about finances, about weekly, monthly P&Ls, about projections, about loan to debt. There's a fear there, and I get it. I'm a business owner. I know that fear. So I'm just curious to know what you feel when you hear those words. Maybe you feel confident. Maybe you do have a business plan and a projection and a forecast, and you're really comfortable with that. So thanks for joining in. I see several more people joining in. Yay. There used to be a button that you could click, and maybe it's on my phone. You could invite people in, and I no longer see that anymore. Ah, there it is. Guest requests, your viewers. Huh. Yeah, there used to be a little plus. There we go. Choose how to go live. Facebook must have done away with that little feature. I can add lipstick though. Crazy, right? All right, so let's get back to the topic here. Please, wherever you're listening from, whether it might be my YouTube channel or live today or the replay or on Instagram, wherever you're listening from, comment what your business is, how long you've been in business, what your biggest challenge or obstacle or struggle is with money, with finances in business. And I'll just get going here on the topic, and then I'll answer any questions at the end. I see a couple of you joining in, and I've got a page of notes here. First and foremost, you are all welcome. If you are a lady, a woman, you're welcome to join my free community. It's called Women's Success Community. It is women in business helping each other to grow and thrive. So comment below or send me a private message and I'll send you an invite to join that community. It's business owners all over the world. So together we can grow. There's a synergy that happens when a group of people in business show up to share their experiences, their struggles, their challenges. So that is called the Women's Success Community, and that's a free community I would love for you to join. Also, if you like what you hear today, there is a membership community starting. It's called Visions to Profits, and we're going to start that August 1st. If you are interested, let me know, and I'll send you the early adopters price, which will be good until the launch happens August 1st. So, what is the feeling that you get when you hear money in business? And what is your experience with money in business? The very first thing that I learned as a business owner way back in 2001, when I was writing my business plan for my very first business, was to create a plan. And within that plan, there was a big section for numbers. The numbers included the market research to show that the business actually could sustain in the community, that it could grow in the community, that it could pay my bills in the community, and a projection, so a growth projection. And I'll tell you, that was one of the hardest things that I ever had to do, create a business plan with numbers. I do not consider myself a numbers gal at all, although over the almost 20 years in business, I have come to appreciate the numbers, and the numbers tell the story. So as I was doing that business plan, and I would try to do anything that I could to not do the number piece. I'm a marketer, so I would get into the marketing. It was way back before social media. Any shiny object, what the van was going to look like, that it was a mobile, it still is a mobile dog grooming business in town here in Anchorage, what that was going to look like, what the graphics were going to look like, what my website was going to look like, anything that I could divert my attention away from the numbers. And I would come back week after week to the counselor that was helping me to create the business plan. And week after week, he would say, where are the numbers? Where's your homework? The numbers tell the true story. And it's funny, we say in our age that our age is just a number. The truth is, our age tells a story of where we've come from, what we've experienced. So if you think of it that way, numbers always tell a story. So having a really clear-cut business plan that shows your numbers, the research, what the research looked like back then for me, it was a mobile dog grooming business. So I had to find out what the prices of my competitors were. I'd actually pick up the phone. I don't even know, did we had big brick phones then. I had to pick up the phone, and I usually did it from places where people couldn't identify who I was. And I had to find out what competition was charging. And I had to punch those numbers in. I had to look at all my expenses, what it was going to take to for the expenses, and see if, line every single item out, what the shampoo was going to cost, what the gas, the fuel for the vehicle, storage, every single little thing. I had to line item that out. And then I had to come up with pricing, all the pricing, and what I was actually capable of performing on a day-to-day basis, and see if those numbers equaled each other. You really wanted the number of income to be a little higher, right? To show that you could actually make it. And that was a painful process, and it told the truth. When that business plan was completed, it told me that I could move forward on the business and actually succeed. So Nancy, you have two businesses, and your biggest issue is that you're stuck in a loop. I have to work full time to pay the bills, so I can't devote as much time on the business. So great question, Nancy. So Nancy's got two businesses, and I don't know how to get rid of it. Now I can't see what I'm doing there, so I'm just going to... Nancy has two businesses, and her biggest obstacle is generating enough income, finding the time, right, to generate enough income to support the one business. And again, that's where the planning comes in. If you create a plan, you can create action steps to show you exactly what you need to do to either get out of your day-to-day job and to grow the business, or is the business that you are trying to create, is it not going to work out? So it'll tell the truth of moving forward, what actions you actually need to take to get to the income that you want to make. Or is the truth that it's just not sustainable? Or is the truth that you're going to have to hire people out? Now, one of the very first things that that business counselor told me when I was writing that business plan, he knew that I just found out I was dyslexic. I was 30, 31, 32 years old, and I always thought I was stupid. Come to find out, nope, just have a learning disorder. And so his advice to me was to hire people for my weaknesses. And I said, well, I'm not even making money in this business that I'm trying to start. How on earth could I hire people out? And again, that was where the budgeting came into play. And he told me that a bookkeeper was a must in my business, that bookkeeper was going to help me look at all my numbers and help me to grow that business. I was terrified. I was a single girl with a mortgage payment. I was going to quit the career that I had. I was making a pile of money, and I was ready to quit that and go into this business. It was the mobile dog grooming business, to go into that full time. I had a date that I was going to quit the full-time job, take the leap of faith that this business would sustain my mortgage payment and all my bills. And what happened was the business plan showed me that it would work out. That if I groomed X amount of dogs a day, a week, a month, it would bring in X amount of income, which would pay all my bills. It would pay the bookkeeper, and it would pay my mortgage. Now, I see a lot of people nowadays asking for money to start businesses or money to start different things. I never, back then we didn't have GoFundMe programs or anything like that. I thought I could get a loan to start that business. I couldn't. So I took out a second mortgage on my home. I took out a $30,000 mortgage on my home as a single girl, ready to quit my career, to start this business. Because I had the backing of the numbers and the business plan that told me that the business would survive because of the numbers, the work that I had done, I was able to take that leap of faith and take out that home equity loan, that $30,000, to start the business and to give that business my full undivided attention. So without doing any of the numbers, I'm in fear. I don't know if you can relate. I get in fear when I'm dreaming, when I'm thinking, when I'm envisioning a growing, thriving business, and yet I haven't done the work. I get in a lot of fear. And what fear does is it keeps me stuck right where I'm at. What the numbers do is they show me the pathway of what I need to do to either leave that job that's making me crazy, that it doesn't allow me time to do the business that I really want to do, or a pathway out of that job. The numbers always, 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 always tell me the truth and help me to create action plans to get there. The numbers also show me, so I hired that bookkeeper, just a little side note. I hired that bookkeeper, and she has been with me all these years. I worked with her when I was radio sales executive, and she was a bookkeeper for the radio stations that I worked for. And then she ventured off on her own. And I hired her before my business even started. We sat down and we talked about the vision of the business, what it looked like, the numbers, the growth plan. She gave me really simple instructions. She told me that she wasn't a CPA, so that any questions she had, tax related, she worked with a CPA that she would refer me to. She told me to get a business license, to get a tax EIN number, that I had to do quarterlies for myself, for any employees. She really helped my business to be a business without paying quarterlies, without paying a piece of the pie to the IRS. I'm not a business. I'm an under-the-table hobby. With all that in place, I'm a business. I'm a business owner with a business EIN number that pays quarterlies, with a business license that sits right here in my office. It forces me to be accountable as a business owner to do certain things. That bookkeeper has been with me all these years throughout 3 different businesses. We still meet, usually we meet yearly, so that she can sort of grow with me and learn the lingo as my business changes and morphs and ebbs and flows. When I got into social media consulting, she didn't know the lingo, so we had to change a lot of the categories on my P&L sheets, P&L profit and loss sheets, and discuss where certain line items go. Another thing about having a bookkeeper and knowing my numbers is she keeps me accountable, so that when I want to pay cash for something, she always comes back with what was I see $50 missing. Where did that go, Tracy? And I'll say, oh, I used to do this. Oh, it went to lunch. And she would say, well, where is the receipt? So it helps me differentiate my personal accounts from my business accounts. And I'll tell you what, throughout these years, it's helped me to save receipts and to think about things before I spend them, because she's going to see what I'm spending. Now, she doesn't have my my bank account information. She doesn't have passwords or anything like that. She simply knows enough to come back. She always comes back with a suspense items. That's what she calls it. So she comes back. I think this last quarter, it was a pretty small suspense item, and I knew right away, oh, that was for my business. That was for my retreats. That was for a workshop I did. That was a lunch I took a client out to. I used to hate her suspense items because I wasn't tracking where I was spending money. And she always comes back with, hey, if you are ever audited, you're going to be flagged on certain issues. So she has been part of my business for all these years to really help me to run my business as a business. And I'm looking at I just got my, we do quarterly now. We used to do once a month. And I'll tell you what, in the beginning, when I was doing month to month with her, I would have a folder, like one of these folders back here, and I would throw all my receipts for the month in the folder. Just a mess. It was just a mess. Just any receipt, I would throw them in the folder. And then at the end of the month, I would drop the folder off at her office. And then she would question every month, hey, wait, what was this receipt? What was this? Then I got in the habit of writing on the receipt what they were for. So then she could categorize things. And now we do quarterly. So I'm not going to show you the numbers on my it's in my income statement, my P&L. But I'm just going to give you kind of an idea of what is on it. I've got on the top, I've got the revenues, and then it's broken down into the categories of which I bring money into the business. I do coaching and consulting. I do retreats, workshops. I have a book that's published, so it's book income. I have different clients that I work on retainers for, so they're all under different client names. And then she's got on the bottom the interest income, so any interest that's earned. So that goes across the top. Current month, there's a number. And then year to date, there's a number. And then year to last year. So I can look back to see if I'm ahead of last year or behind. This year I'm ahead. Then it goes down. So that gives me my gross profit. Okay. And I'll tell you what, when I owned Rub-a-Dub Dog, the mobile dog business, I got really good looking at my numbers and looking at her profit and loss statement every month and really tracking the growth and projecting what I wanted to make, and if I did this amount, I could make this amount, and really fun with playing with the numbers. However, it wasn't until I was married to my husband, who is a CPA, very business savvy man. We were married just a short time, and he knew me. He knew the business, and he had known me for 5 years. He knew what I did not know about numbers. What I had a hard time doing was looking at my net income. I was so excited about my gross income. And I remember the first couple months, I don't know if we were just dating or if we were married, just running to him and saying, "Oh my gosh, I made $1,000 more than last month," or "I made $500 more than last month." And then I would show him my P&L, my profit and loss sheet, my one sheet. And he is such he's my biggest fan, my biggest cheerleader, and he's a business guy. And he would look at the sheet and he would say, "Actually, you made $500 more in your gross profit, and look down here, you spent $700 more." And I would be like, you're not supporting me. Well, the truth was, I had to learn to read about my expenses, which is the whole bottom area of my sheet. It's broken into the expenses. The expenses minus the gross give me the net, which is the truth of what I actually brought in. The gross is not the truth. So on my expenses, I have things like advertising, accounting and bookkeeping, admin. I've had a virtual assistant for many years, bank fees, any coaching and consulting that I hire people to help me with, copywriter. I've got an editor that helps me. Credit cards, credit card fees, gift and relations, anytime I give a gift to a client, education and training. It goes on from there, expenses, telephone, retreat expenses. So I might bring in a certain amount for the retreat. Well, what did I spend going out? And that tells me the truth. Are the retreats really worth it because of the numbers? Not because of the feeling that I have inside and that I love doing them, because of the numbers. If the numbers time after time after time don't support the business, then the business is not going to make it. And that's the reality. And like I said, I used to get really bummed when my very logical husband would say things to me like that. Like, the numbers tell you when it's time to shut the door. I remember the first time he said that and thinking, well, that's not very nice. And he said, it's not nice, and yet it's the truth. The numbers tell you if you're growing, if you're not, and if maybe you need to not do it because you're spending so much money to support the business. So the numbers really, really tell the truth. And I'm looking at my year-to-date last year with my total expenses, and I'm still ahead, which is good. So my net income from last year to date is ahead this year, which is great. It tells me the truth. It tells me I'm on a pathway of growth. It also can tell you how to project for the future. And like I said, and I'm almost coming up on a half an hour, I'm looking at any questions that anybody has. Feel free to pop them in the comments. I work with a lot of business owners that I'm just going to use the example. I worked with real estate because that was my background, real estate. So I would work with people in the real estate profession, and I can't tell you how many times they did not know what their expenses were for the previous year. Well, if you don't know that, how do you know what to project moving forward? If you don't know your net and your gross, how do you know? How do you know that you can spend a certain amount on a class or a gift or anything without knowing the truth. And it's taken me a long time and a lot of different businesses to stay clear about the numbers. When I am not, and when I see other people aren't clear, fear slips in, and fear creates a lot of no motion. Fear creates a lot of feeling stuck, feeling overwhelmed. Numbers help solidify and to create actions. Numbers also, when you put things on paper, they tend to not be as scary as we thought they were. They tend to not be as scary as we might think that they are. Right, Nancy? Nancy says, yes, it does. I always show the number of 100 grand just because it's an easy math equation, even though I have to always use my calculator here. So 100 grand, let's say you want to make 100 grand. Write it on a sheet of paper, 100 grand. And then break it into the categories of your business that are going to lead up to 100 grand. For me, like I said, it's my vision journal, my membership site that's launching August 1st. Remember, there's an early adopters rate. If you're interested, if you like what you've heard, there's an early adopters rate. Just message me and I'll send you the details on that so you can get in on that before I launch it and the price goes up. So my business is broken into categories. So the vision journal, the membership, workshops, retreats, speaking, and consulting. So I have 6 different areas that my business is broken up into. If I took 100 grand and divided that into 6, it would give me 16,000 for each category. So to simplify it, 16,000 for each category. I'm not going to say that. Then I can tweak the numbers within each category. So let's say $20,000 for coaching, for consulting. What do I have to and what is my hourly rate? So $20,000 for coaching consulting divided by $137. That gives me 145 hours I need to bill to make 20 grand. Then if I divide 145 into, I'm just going to say 10 months out of the year, taking 2 months off, that tells me 15 hours a month in coaching, one-on-one coaching. 15 hours a month to coach people. I'm going to divide that into 4 weeks. 4 hours a week. One-on-one coaching. 10 months out of the year to get $20,000. So I always start with the end result and then I break it down. And it's really interesting to see the breakdown. It's not so big and scary anymore. It's, wow, 4 hours a month, one-on-one coaching to make $20,000 for that one area of my business. So you start with a big number and then you break it into categories. So Nancy, you sell a product. So the number that you would like to make, and maybe look at, like on my profit and loss sheet that I get quarterly, it's got all my bills on there. It's got all my my telephone, I'm just adding my office expenses. It's got office expenses. It's got my anything, PayPal processing, anything to do with my business. It gives me an expense. Okay. So you would get your expenses, what you need to actually have your business. and then what you would like to make on top of that. So that'll give you your number, Nancy. And then you take that number and you divide it into maybe an average of your products that you sell. So maybe you sell products anywhere from $20 to $70. I'm just saying, take an average of that and divide it by that number. That'll give you the number of product that you need to sell every single month to leave that full-time job that you have. You said that you have, you work full-time to pay your bills. So that will give you your number, Nancy, to be able to leave that job. Maybe even put a little away for, definitely put 30% for taxes. My husband always reminds me of that. So 30% to taxes. And remember, a business owner pays taxes. I love on Shark Tank when they say, are you a wantrepreneur or an entrepreneur? And the wantrepreneur is a hobby. The entrepreneur has the business license, pays the quarterly taxes, treats the business as though it is a business. So, I am going over my half an hour. I want to just encourage all of you that are listening, if you have found this helpful, I have a free Women's Success Community. It is a Facebook group with women in business from all over the world doing all sorts of amazing things. I have, oh my gosh, the businesses that are a part of it. One of the ladies has a knitting business, and I've just met her through a course that I'm taking. There's 3,000 of us from all over the world, and it's really neat to see business owners doing all different kinds of businesses and really, really doing well. So if you would like to join that Women's Success Community, it's a group of women from all over the world really supporting each other in growth. And then the pre-launch for the Visions to Profits membership, which I will be launching August 1st. So I have early adopters already in the program. We meet weekly. And then I've got early adopters. I've got 4 of them that have paid already. So if you want the skinny on that before the launch, because when I launch, it's going to go up in price. It is a really neat membership community. And if you can see the board behind me, that board with all the colors on it, that is all the monthly activities that are going to happen within the membership each month. There's a theme for each month, and I have interviews lined up with really neat, successful people in business, as well as some surprises. So if you're interested, go ahead and drop me a note. And I thank you, each and every one of you, for joining in. I hope that you catch this next week and that it was enlightening and insightful. I would love for you to share it in your community or with somebody that you know that's in business that could use the information. So hit the share button. Thank you so much. I will talk to you in the community, if you're in the community, or next Monday. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye.